Shintani does not improve on lap 2, but he still stays at the top of the board. Here comes Thomas Fleming cresting his way over the top of Druids, down in towards Graham Hill Bend, which is going to be the scene of many an incident, especially Lewis, knowing how wide you can wash out there and use that runoff on offer.
Yeah, indeed. Graham Hill Bend you can use quite a bit on the exit. But to be fair, all these drivers will be very well versed with how you can navigate the circuit. There's only 4 real corners around here: Paddock Hill, Druids, and then of course the run through Graham Hill and then up towards Clears. Technically Clears is technically 2 corners. You go left at Surtees and then flick it right. Thomas Fleming up towards the lines. If there is going to be any improvement with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the session, I believe not. I'll correct myself immediately. Straight up on the provisional pole. Never mind.
Cooking a good lap there, 14 thousandths to the good. To those watching on the iRacing Esports Network YouTube channel, welcome along. You haven't missed much. Arjuna Kankupati alongside of Lewis McGlade in the RaceBot commentary booth as we get set to dive into 3 races. First 2 heat races, each going to be, I think it's 10 laps in length before we head off to the LCQ. 13 drivers each from the heat, 4 from the LCQ. Makes a field of 30 that will do battle, and qualifying well, Lewis, can be important to give yourself good track position for those heat races.
Yeah, certainly so. You want to be right up there in those heat races. Anything in the midfield and you're... I mean, look, you might be able to find your way through, but it is a very, very risky game. You can see some of the drivers there on the left-hand side. Shomi Shintani was the runner-up in the UK Formula 4 1600 Esports Championship back in 2024. Now takes part in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. Remy Gilbert is in contention for the title. I think he's second in the title race in British Formula 4 Esports. Obviously, you've got Aaron Vasquez up there, one of the highest I-rated drivers. Matt Caruana also in contention for the British Formula 4 Esports Championship. Same with Leo Brown. You've got Jaden Sherwood, who's been very good in the UK Formula 4 1600s. He's currently sat second in the title race. There's a lot of good drivers. And then there's Callum Voisin as well, obviously a real-world driver. Then there's a couple of drivers out there that we've seen. There's maybe some not so good drivers, Oscar Hardwick, George Brabner. That's fine.
Getting those shots in at your friends early, I see. There is one notable name missing. Yes, Emil Bernstorff, defending race winner from 2024, is back in the field, but the inaugural winner, Jason Smith, is not racing, Lewis, but that's because he had some other things on his priority list, and that's why we're not seeing him this time out in the virtual world.
The 2025 Formula Ford Festival champion, Jason Smith there, of course. So winning the virtual version a couple of years ago and now winning the real thing. I believe he's taken part in the Walter Hayes Trophy that's happening today as well. So why some of the drivers are missing from this grid, the likes of your Henry Moores and maybe even Crofton Woodhatches and stuff who we'd normally expect to see on this grid. They are not here courtesy, I think. I'm going to take a wild guess. They're probably the Walter Hayes Trophy. I don't off the top of my head, but I'll take a wild stab in the dark.
I think it's a fair guess, and request to iRacing, if you could move this event 1 week later than the double header that occurs in the real world, I think we'd have a very, very fascinating crossover entry list. Qualifying done and dusted. We have 10 laps and 2 heat races left to settle which 13 drivers move on automatically from each race, and therefore grid position could be important. Thomas Fleming, Emil Bernstorff, defending race winner. Oh boy, that's an interesting paint scheme on the outside of the front row. Aaron Vasquez, Matt Caruana, they share row 2 with Caleb Hydes and Jaden Sherwood right behind them. Now we get into the danger zone, those that might have to fight a bit more to hold on to their spots. Zamaloa, Micallef, Nunez and Smith the top 10, with Babineau and Witten right on the hot seat. Wanji Lin will be the driver on the cutoff. He'll have Ricardo Martinez to his inside with Connor Clubline, Timothy Russell, Yerne Zorek, Casper Anderson, and then rounding out the field towards the back of the 25 Formula Fords, it's Paolo Lopez, Chris Vralioff, Sim Lug, Ian Anderson, George Brabner, Maxwell Soler, and then all by themselves, Andrew Petty on the tail end of the grid.
Oh, good.
A couple of names butchered in there, but we'll move on.
No, it's fine. Look, it's going to be an afternoon of butchered names. Got to say, George Brabner, 23rd position. I told him to sign up to this race probably about 20 minutes before it started, but 23rd on the grid. For someone who was bragging to me earlier on in the day about beating Will Power in an Indy Next race, what is happening?
So lights will come up and we will go racing. So Top 13 advanced directly to the main event. Everyone else sent to an LCQ. Off and away, we are racing in the BRSCC iRacing Formula Ford 1600 Festival. And they slot into line at the front of the field and dive down through the opening corner at Paddock Hill Bend. First real side-by-side action on the verge of the top 10. Yes, there's going to be some charging to the front. Aaron Vasquez watches as Emil Bernstorff leaves the door open down the hill. But really, cut-off line, top 13, where all the action's going to be.
Yeah, Emil Bernstorff just trying to hang on to second position. Aaron Vasquez trying to go far around the outside. Of course, whilst you're all looking to progress through into the feature race, where you finish in this race does affect your grid position in the feature race. They don't qualify again. They just basically it sets them as to where they'll be, what row they will be in the final later on. And with that, track position is quite important to work your way through, but of course you just want to get into the final. That's the goal.
Oh, big send up the inside as we ride with Matt Caruana. He's going to force Aaron Vasquez out into the gravel. That's a little bit naughty. Vasquez is going to drop down to 7th. That's a whole lot of grid position lost right there.
Yeah, certainly so. Caruana, aggressive driver, knows how to get the job done. A two-time winner this season. He was joint at number 1 on the all-time winners list coming out of Silverstone a few days ago, basically. He had 8 victories in British Formula 4 esports. However, one of those has been stripped away. We don't talk about that one. He had a penalty, basically. Oh! There is a big crash. Jaden Sherwood and Caleb Hides straight off at the final corner.
Trying to make a baby Formula Ford there, and seemingly with little damage, Hides rejoins at the tail end of the pack. There's one driver in pit lane, Paulo Lopez, but of the field of 25 that saw the green flag, all of them, for the most part, still out there and racing. 3 abeam, well down the heart of the order, but meanwhile at the front they're chopping and changing. Thomas Fleming still holds on the cut line right now, Lewis, in that fight to hold on to the automatic spots into the main event. Connor Clubline has just moved himself forward into that spot, so important moves being made further back.
That was not great from the number 13, just getting a little bit too aggressive there down the inside of Jaden Sherwood, and Sherwood will be sat there thinking, what did I do wrong there? But Caleb Hyde's a little bit too aggressive for my liking there at the final corner. You can make a move stick there, but you have to almost a little bit later tan that or earlier than that. Where he did it, there's always going to be that contact. 3 though for the race lead between Fleming, Bernstorff and Caruana. And like I say, as much as these are all drivers in position to move through, and you would sit there and go, well, they're in that position now, so maybe they won't fight too hard. This is the difference between starting on the front row or starting, and even that, starting from pole position. Or starting from on the 3rd row. So it's an important move.
On board with Zamaloa below. I'll keep an eye on the cut line fight right now, which has grown to about half a second. So currently comfortable is the 42. Using that draft to try and close on what is a relatively grim day in terms of the weather. Cool conditions mean pretty optimal grip. Long way around, down through the opening corner. Left himself vulnerable potentially to Luis Nunez, who representing Lightning McQueen. Kachow gets his way through.
Lovely. Nice Kachow as well. Good effort on that one. We all need to rewatch cars now. Good day. Obviously a good little movie. Quite Druids is the optimum place to go. Road takes. Caleb Hyde, by the way, has returned into pit lane, so there definitely was some damage on his car. Unless there was some even more contact out there. I mean, you don't know. It's all very, very chaotic.
It is a race that's hard to follow sometimes, isn't it? That attrition starting to pick up as officially halfway through the first of the 2 heats. Bernstorff, the defending race winner, pops out for a moment, shows himself in the mirror, and Fleming increasingly going defensive as Luis Nunez now up to 4th. Going to try and close that 1.5 second deficit to the top 3.
Caruana will pick his way through here if Bernstorff's so focused on Thomas Fleming, and it is a difficult circuit to overtake at. We go back to Yone Zorech, and there is a bit of contact and a big hit into the barrier. Whoa, straight up into the air. Is he going to land on all 4 wheels? Let's wait and see. There's even more in there. Not quite. The crash is still going. Look, if this lands on its wheels, that's a 15 out of 10 kind of spin there.
I think George Bravner picked up 3 spots as a result of that. He's now up to 19. On board with Caruana as once more Bernstorff attacks around the outside, down to turn 1. Off quite alongside, and whoa, a chop from Fleming as he covers the inside. You can tell how much he wants to hold on to what would be pole position in the main event. Caruana sees his chance to the outside to Graham Hill Bend, but he does the wise thing and backs off back into line.
Yeah, indeed. I've seen a very... he's been kind of driving very well the last couple of years, but a very different Matt Caruana the last couple of years than what I'd seen in the first couple of years where I was commentating on, where he's obviously had the speed, but maybe couldn't kind of balance the aggression sometimes and went a little bit over the line. This year, for the most part, it's been very good, keeping it above board, keeping it clean, making the right decisions, working his way through a pack, and like I say, he's well versed at it, battling with Bernstorff and Fleming, 2 people that know how to get done in this car. That late chop over from Fleming coming out of Paddock Hill Bend, I get it 100%. You want to defend that inside. If you let someone get to the inside, then they're going to get through there pretty much 9 times out of 10. But it is a risky one. You do that one too many times and you might end up with a slight overlap and then a crash.
Change on the cut line, by the way, as Connor Clubine has had an issue contact, and he's now dropped down to 21st. Meatball flag for him. And Andrew Petty, it's almost last man standing here, Lewis, and look how they're starting to stack up behind. Desperation going to rise as not just at the front of the field they're starting to fan out 3 of being, but surely short time remaining for these drivers back here. It's going to get more intense.
Yeah, here comes a look, though, at the front end of the field. Fleming once again defensive. Emil Bernstorff having to deal with Matt Caruana, who's got to the inside in the penultimate lap, and he has worked his way through. He's going to leave it to the outside, though, at Graham Hill Bend. He's going to try and cut off Emil Bernstorff. He's going to leave the nose down the inside. That one's not going to work. Matt Caruana gets them into second place.
I get the sneaking suspicion. They picked up a 1X there and just rolled the car through the grass onto the AstroTurf on offer, but that's confidence, and you are right, this is a more mature Matt Caruana than we saw a couple of years ago, making better decisions, and that was a great move. That will move him up into the second row on the starting formation if things hold as they are, but they've got one more lap to hold on here at the Brands Hatch Indy circuit behind. Aaron Vasquez is alongside of Fraser Smith as he tries to bomb it around the outside.
Yeah, Vasquez going for it. I mean, look, he's the highest I-rated driver on the field. The #1 car says all of that. He's trying to battle with Fraser Smith, but the difference in speed here might go the way of Smith. That inside line going into Druids, and he's calculated and he's holding on as they've only got one more corner to deal with at the top end of the field. Still side by side with Vasquez, muscling his way through at Graham Hill Bend.
Yeah, definitely no lying down right now. Change on the cut liners again. Now Andrew Petty's dropped out. Last man standing indeed. Front of the field, Thomas Fleming goes from pole to victory. He will hold on to pole position for the main event. And with him, Matt Caruana and Emil Bernstorff brewing up a great fight slightly later on. Micallef, Nunez, Zamaloa, rest of the top 6 as Smith pips Vasquez. Or is it the other way around on the timing as things come to an end? And meanwhile, in that all-important battle for the transfer spots, it's Casper Anderson by 1/10 of a second, Lewis, that holds off Luke Whitten. What a fight that must have been.
Yeah, some tight fights up and down the field, some disappointed drivers. I think most notably in all that would be Jaden Sherwood, who, of course, is Wabler, will have to go into that last chance race and give it a go at being in the top 4. He is certainly one to look out for in that battle, though.
And so this is just a reminder of the drivers who are going through to the main event. We'll be watching from the sidelines as we have Heat 2 and the LCQ to come. And we'll continue to scamper through these names because we've got a grid to take a look at as well. So, at the front of this field, Shoma Shintani, Remy Gilbert, and then Hans Molat, Leo Brown behind them. JD Rodriguez, Dylan McClements make up the top 6 starters, while 7th goes the way of Callum Voisin. Haram Song will be alongside in what is truly an international field. 3 different continents represented, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and Medina. Mario Ras, Javier Sanchez, and then Tobias Roner make up the top 12. 13th and on the cut line for Carolus Vilkatis with Eric Van Spiker, Garen Batten, Oscar Hardwick, Akash Rajesh, JB Masida, and then rounding out the top 20, Van Thielen and Dobitzberger. Pinto, Chris, Fent, Nagelvort. That's the top 24. And off and away they go racing. One driver has not taken to the starting grid, and that, I think, was Remy Gilbert. Not quite sure what's happened, as off and away they dive down into the opening corner. Shintani from Mollett, then Brown. McClements has got up to 4th in front of JD Rodriguez, and Callum Voisin on the hunt is in 6th.
Yeah, Remy Gilbert has now left the pit lane, so he'll be trying to close up to the rear end of it. Not 100% sure as to what started him from the pit lane, whether he maybe forgot that the race has started now. I say Callum Voisin picking the classic M&M's car. Always see him in that, or the Lego. I remember that in the F4 car. He always liked to pick that. And of course, a quality driver, real world and in the sim. Of course, for me, the 2023 GB3 championship champion. Can't remember the other this time. Don't worry about it. He's a quality driver. He knows what he's doing behind the wheel of a race car, and probably has one of the very few liveries on here that you could maybe classify, maybe with Mario Ras and the Mario car. Not many ones that you could dress up as on Halloween. A bit meme cars. No spooky pooky cars.
You were waiting for your chance to slip that one in. Onto the second lap of the race, the M&M's machine chucks it up the inside, and Mollett a bit scared of slipping on those M&Ms, down to 7th spot. Here's a look on the opening lap of JB Masida in the middle of the pack, and once more a slightly skyborne Formula Ford, fortunate not to end in tears. This Brands Hatch Indy layout, it's short, it's furious, and it does not relent, Lewis. 10 laps is a lot of action to pack into a short race.
Yeah, brutal track. You go around in cars faster than this, and yeah, you actually don't really see any overtakes. I think the Formula Ford is such a perfect car for a circuit like this that is so short and relatively technical. I mean, Paddock Hill is an enormous drop-off. It's one of those ones you'll hear everyone say it. It doesn't do it justice seeing it on TV or in the game. If you've ever been there, you know that drop-off is massive going through the opening corner at Paddock Hill. And even around this part of the circuit, they're all still very technical corners. But I believe, much like it was last year in Heat 2, Shoma Shintani is absolutely running away with things.
10,174 of those I ratings for Shoma Shintani at the front, and that is a gap which I think slightly helped by a little bit of fighting into the opening corner behind him on the start, but not quite broken clear of drafting range. Has done a great job. Now, cut line. Tobias Roner is somewhat comfortably still in the draft of those in front of him, and then there's a gap back to Garen van Batten, who has got Eric van Spijker putting the pressure on wheel to wheel. Callum Voisin now takes 3rd spot away. Started down in 7th, 4 positions gained, and looking to try and start towards the front of the field in the main event.
And McClements, who is currently sat there in 4th position, been quite unlucky as a driver in the UK Formula Ford 1600 this year, has been in this kind of position where he's up there fighting for a podium, somewhere in the top 5, and then there's something that happens late on in the race and he ends up not getting anything, which is exactly what happened in the Formula 4 Festival last year. I think he was running in 4th position in Heat 2, then had an incident and dropped down the field. And alas, he didn't get through into the consolation race. I don't think he progressed from the consolation race either. Can confirm, by the way, I had a little look back on it. It was Shoma Shintani who won this very race last year by about 2 seconds.
Look at Mr. Anorak breaking out his statistics, and that was just his memory.
I don't even have a spreadsheet
There. I know, that was pretty impressive. Fight behind's getting more feisty. This is now just about Voisin trying to close up to Brown and then Shintani, which halfway through the second heat is not a foregone conclusion. There could still be a fight on for the lead of the race. Mollett back to 6th momentarily, although Medema reclaims it on the inside. And now with Mario Ras in the Mr. Mario car peeking through. You are quite correct. That is the best of the cars this year that we've seen in terms of costume ability on the post-Halloween edition of the iRacing Formula Ford Festival.
Yeah, where's your Halloween livery, boys? Come on. Get those spooky pooky liveries out. Look,
just a shame that we didn't have webcams.
Oh yeah, mate. If you were racing this race, you didn't have webcam. Oh, you had a webcam on, and you weren't dressed up. Yes. I'd be very disappointed.
Well, I was also thinking you and me, but I know that's more effort than.
Oh, I mean, I'm in a white t-shirt and chinos at the moment, so I'm not sure what it is.
It's fine. I'll put my racing suit on and claim that's a costume. That's the extent of my effort most times.
I've got a red polo downstairs. I'll pretend I'm Tiger Woods.
There we go. You've even got the hair for it, potentially, and the golf swing nowadays.
I'll go with that.
Fight on the edge of the top 13 is going to get more interesting now that Ann Medema had that small issue and is having to fight their way back through the field. So Van Spiker going to be under pressure, on board with Kaitis in 11th spot right now. And just look at the train in front as you pick your way down the hill, and Lewis is quite correct. Elevation and iRacing can kind of give you a sense of what it's like, but you'll never appreciate just how steep it really is until you're there and trying to walk down it in person for the very first time.
The one thing that I do love, if you look at the bottom, well, to be fair, both sides, you've got the gyro cam. You can actually see how banked the start-finish straight is there. It's one of those ones you never really notice it on TV. You notice it a little when you're driving, but obviously when you're in the, when you're driving in the cockpit, obviously that doesn't tilt to level out. When you've got the gyro on, and it flattens out, and you can see how it is quite a lot. I've done the grid walk here. It's honestly, it's hard work.
Probably a factor that drivers have to consider when slotting themselves in and lining up on race starts. Fortunately, here in the virtual world, not necessarily something to consider. On board with Rajesh, who's dropped down to 22nd, so he's about to get kachowed off.
That was kachowed
by Van Vielen. 2 laps left to go, though, at the front of the field. And I think Callum Voisin's kind of stalled out here. He's found Leo Brown harder to close on than he would have liked. Shintani's still 7/10 to the good. Here comes McClements. That's a great move.
Lovely, a lovely move. And no contact either. I was wondering if that Lightning McQueen livery was actually Chick Hicks in disguise, but no, it's fine. There's a little bit of squeezing there going down into the opening corner. Mario Ras and Harem Song also battling over that 7th position. There comes a look back down the inside from Callum Voisin. There was always going to be contact there. A little bit too late for a move. Is there damage on Dylan McClement's car? Can he get back going again and remain in the transfer position? So unlucky.
Well, answer is no. He has dropped to 14th. 1 lap left for him to fight his way back in. Oh, this is going to be hero stuff potentially from McClement. Still sussing out if there's any damage on that car. Here comes JD Rodriguez. Pops to the outside as white flag in hand. 1 more lap in the second and final heat of the iRacing Formula Ford 1600 Festival. I mean, that angle doesn't really tell us too much, because really, like we've been talking about, you can use all that track on offer exiting down out of Graham Hill Band.
I would say Voisin understeers into McClements. I think McClements did give enough room. But it is what it is, bit of a shame. And sad for him to drop down into 14th position, unless he gets a bit lucky with maybe an incident up here. Looks as though he might have to go into that consolation race, but we'll start it from a good position anyway.
Deja vu at the front of the field, as, I think you're right, Voisin may be likely to take the blame. But second year on the bounce, that Shoma Shintani, winner in heat number 2, and he'll start second in the main event when we get going with the 30 drivers later on in the proceedings. Leo Brown did end up closing on Shintani towards the end, so give him some credit as well. After starting down in 3rd position, or rather 4th position for Leo Brown, took advantage of the absence of Remy Gilbert through turn 1 to plug the hole and find his way forward. Callum Voisin, JD Rodriguez, Hans Molat, Harem Song, Mario Ras, Javier Sanchez, Tobias Roner, Carlos Vilkaitis. They're all drivers that move on forward alongside of a handful more. 11th, 12th, and 13th would advance as well. And those drivers are Garen Batten and Medema, who did end up fighting their way back into the mix of things. And then one more. We'll talk about that in a sec. Let's talk about LCQ starting grid. Luke Witten, Dylan McClements. Lots of work for him to do to hold on. Chris Vralhovic, and then Eric Van Spiker, George Brabner, and Rui Pinto, the top 6. Maxwell Solar, Matthew Crisp, Jaden Sherwood, Remy Gilbert, Sim Van Lug, Oscar Hardwick, Andrew Petty, Brandon Nagelvort, Caleb Hides, Alexander Dobitzberger, Ian Anderson, Akash Rajesh, and then Paolo Lopez, JB Masida, Connor Clubine, Stephen Fent, and Yerne Zorek. 23 cars. And we'll actually get to see the start of this one as well, Lewis. 10 laps of racing, only 4 to move forward.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. That short run down the first corner. Dylan McClements will be determined to win this after the disappointment of his heat.
Off and away we go. Decent start from Witten at the front of the field. Single file they are momentarily, but you get the sneaking suspicion we've got more fighting than we've ever had. Luke Witten left the door open. McClement snatches it and takes the race lead on the climb up into Druids for the first time by.
Ignore Ian Anderson there. He'll be in the pit lane, but alas, that's him not leading the race. Don't worry. Whoa. There's some aggressive moves coming in as Vashilov is trying to find his way through there. Witten trying to find his way back through on Vashilov. You've got Van Spiker as well. Remember, the top 4 in this race progress through into the final, as there is a big slide in the background from GB George Brabner. Wow, I'll be picking up a photograph of that one afterwards for GMB Media. I don't know how well it's going to look, but yeesh, that was aggressive.
And then it was Remy Gilbert slipping off the track at the final corner through Clark Curve, who found themselves in strife. And so top 4 advance. It's Van Spiker in the hot seat for the time being, with Rui Pinto 6/10 off. Here's a look at the replay, up towards turn 1. And so, well, they're going to go 3 into 1, aren't they?
Yep. 0 out of 10.
Yeah, that was a proper send. And then, well, I'm surprised it wasn't worse.
Second Mario Kart, though, so there's at least a second attempt for a Halloween. Ooh, what's happened up towards the front with Crash 11, Witten?
I think the only driver not involved in the original top 4 was Dylan McClements, who's now 2 seconds to the good. Jaden Sherwood, Rui Pinto, Andrew Petty, and George Brabner's in the mix here to move on forward.
Come on, George. No bias, hashtag no bias. Dylan McClements is gone. Jaden Sherwood, completely forgot he was in this race, by the way. Obviously, such a talented driver in these cars. Worked his way up now to 2nd position.
Whoa.
There is a look at that. That was a full-on whack.
I mean, that's a little bit more, I think, blatant than what we saw with Voisin, as Petty and Brabner still squabbling away at Druids as we jump on board with Pinto. So the action behind is really where we keep an eye on. So at this point, let's be honest, Lewis, McClements, don't make a mistake, you're probably good. Sherwood in the dangerous position, I would say, of feeding draft to everyone behind him. But really, Petty's the one in the hot seat, the one that's always looking over the shoulder, thinking, where is the next move coming?
Yeah, indeed. And yes, there's quite a large gap back from Max Soler to Jerne Zorich. So maybe you won't see that. I'd suspect that Zorich and Lopez might get a chance to go after this, but realistically it's that top 4 that we're focused on. Soler, who we're riding on board with, runs in that 6th position, so he's 2 behind the cut-off line. You've got 3 cars in this group moving through and 2 not. There comes a move to the inside from Andrew Petty. He gets down the inside of Rui Pinto. Is he going to complete that move by the time they get down to the Graham Hill bend? Whoa, and George Brabner just into the touch, into the rear end of Pinto, who came to a complete stop on the apex.
You saw what Brabner wants to do, undercut and get the blast down Cooper straight on the inside into Surtees, but Pinto saw it coming, popped himself on the apex, and almost 3 stacked up into 1. It's opened up the margin slightly as they cross back across to finish lap 4 of 10. The main event's going to be 20 laps, so it's not much longer by any means, Lewis. So these are short races, and racecraft is important. Lines you take are important. Look here, Zorich out wide and now very vulnerable. Here comes Rajesh around the outside, trying to make up for the bit of contact he's had through here and the pass, and still a bit too aggressive. Zorich loses the rear end.
Gotta say, shout out to Paolo Lopez in the Chromobile. That thing looks mental. As we head back up. No, you're absolutely right. The final will be coming up after this. 20 laps, so double the race length. Means that track position, not super important. Obviously, you want to be starting from the top 5 or 6. In fact, actually, race winner last year, Emil Bernstorff, started from 5th position. Guess what position he's starting in this year?
Don't say 5th.
5th position, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But of course, for all these drivers, they'll be starting in the final 4 positions on the grid, the final 2 rows, regardless of where they finish in this. So the likelihood of them winning is quite low, but you at least want to get through into the final. Was George Brabner. What has happened, boy?
Has he gone wide through that opening descent, pushed himself into the gravel. He's trying to push the Chromobile of Paolo Lopez, but down into Graham Hill bend, it's all settled. 6th position changes hands, and suddenly Maxwell Soler has got a bit of ground to close up to the top 4. They may now find themselves in a comfortable position with what will be 4 laps to go at the line. Lopez and Brabner now squabbling for 6th and 7th once again. Not going to do them any favors trying to close up. Here comes Rajesh as well.
Brabner's out wide. Akash Rajesh is going to get through, and so Brabner's going to be dropped down into 8th position. So whatever happened down at Paddock Hill Bend has certainly cost him a chance at moving through here into the final. Again, just those 4 cars, meaning it's just really Soler that will be the one to try it, just losing the rear end. He did tell me it was like this is a car that wants to slide, but you know, it's a car that can be quite hard to slide. Very finicky car to drive. That's why it's one of the rookie cars. And a great rookie car it is.
It, again, is a real racecraft development tool at the end of the day, and there's a reason why so many have gone on to find success in this car and carry it forward. Lewis and I were talking pre-race around Max Esterson, who has won the festival, won the Walter Hayes Trophy as well, and just a couple of weeks ago in his first ever race with a roof over his head in a Porsche 963 GTP Beast, all hybrid electronic wizardry to figure out as well. He has really put on a great showing of himself. Fight for second is starting to intensify though. Andrew Petty looking to try and move himself up 1 row on the grid. At the end of the day, last thing you want to do is slip yourself off the track and lose out on that transfer spot. This is sometimes the curse of a consolation race, an LCQ, Lewis. If the top 4, or however many transfer, find themselves separated out from the rest of the field, there is less requirement to go out there and battle.
It's not like it was in the heat races where every position you gain is an extra row on the grid, which is very helpful. In here, you're only fighting over those final 4 positions. And to be perfectly honest, Arjuna, if I'm not super bothered as to whether I'm starting 27th or 30th. So if I'm 1st, 2nd, 3rd or 4th, I don't really care which way round it is. As long as I'm in one of those positions, I'm a happy boy moving into that final. So I don't think you'll see the top 4 battle. I think they will calmly race one out. Maybe Andrew Petty might have a look on Jaden Sherwood, but I don't think there's going to be anything more than that. Could be wrong, but there's no real pressure on that top 4. Certainly not since Dylan McClements has picked off a 3.5 second lead. Absolutely incredible. Showing the pace that he was trying to put on display in the heat races.
Oscar Hardwick in the iRacing Twitch chat, not happy.
Dear, what's he saying?
Not happy with the standard of driving, to say the very least. Getting deleted in both races, to quote Matt Hardy, is a top-tier experience. Well, at least Oscar. Fortunate thing is, the misery's over. Go play some golf. You can find some happiness.
That's true.
Find some happiness in the day.
But he doesn't play golf. His other half does, and she's very good. So that's fine.
It's never a bad time to pick it up.
Yeah, that's true. I've been to a driving range with Oscar. It's not worth it.
All right, fair enough. Well, unfortunately, it's not going to be Oscar Hardwick that moves forward. This is the fight, effectively, for bragging rights. They are done for the day. Those 5th on back. Top 4 to advance, and Dylan McClements puts the misery of Heat 2 behind him, slipping out in the closing stages, and fights his way back in the LCQ. Jaden Sherwood, Andrew Petty, and Rui Pinto all advance as well. And now we have our field of 30, Lewis, locked in for 20 final laps of racing.
Yes, indeed. Should be a thrilling one. Again, it's going to be Fleming and Shintani on that front row. Caruana and Brown, 2 drivers that have battled time and time again in British Formula 4 esports. And you are going to have probably less than 60 seconds, in fact, even 30 seconds to get through a 30-car grid. Off you go, Chi.
Oh, take a deep breath, and we'll be off and away in a few moments' time. Don't even think we'll have a warm-up between the 2 sessions, so it's going.
Just thrown in.
Yep, it's going to be straight into the thick of things. Still waiting for the final couple of cars to cross the line before we can confirm the consolation results and instantly get thrown into that feature race. So, quick look at these results. Top 4 to move forward. Let's talk about the starting grid for the finals here of the BRSCC iRacing Formula Ford 1600 Festival for 2025. It will be Thomas Fleming and Shoma Shintani on the front row, Matt Caruana and Leo Brown behind them, with Emil Bernstorff and Callum Voisin, row number 3. 7th for Ryan Micallef with JD Rodriguez alongside Luis Nunez and Hans Molat, the top 10. Zamaloa and Song, 11th and 12th. Row 7 sees Vasquez and Ras with Smith, Sanchez, Babineau, Roner behind them. Enter the top 20 for 19th and 20th, Wanji Lin and Karolis Vilkaitis, Martinez, Batten, Russell, Medema, the top 24. Just 6 more cars on your screen right now as the engines rev and we are ready to go racing for 20 laps to settle our champion. Our defending race winner back in 5th spot. What can he do? As we go racing from Brands Hatch, 20 laps to settle it all. A great jump from the pole sitter and indeed from the front row. Jump start from Harem Song slightly further behind, but everyone else off and away cleanly, Lewis, as they climb up through Druids for the first time.
Yeah, and Song's obviously dropping backwards. That's how that penalty will have to come back in to serve it anyway. Aaron Vasquez then getting that position. You've got Callum Voisin and Ryan Mikulev going side by side. Just in the background, it's Voisin though who holds firm in 6th position. I was going to say this before. I think Shoma Shintani's got a really good chance of winning this race, but Fleming's defence in the opening heat was very impressive. But can he do that for 20 laps against one of the most aggressive drivers on this field? I'm not so sure.
Clements is already up to 24th position, so he's grabbed 3 spots in 1 lap. Not saying he's going to win this race, but he could still have a decent finish as Song comes into pit lane to serve that penalty. Callum Voisin looking to pop to the high line and try and sweep around the outside of defending race winner. Emil Bernstorff still got the inside line. Matt Caruana tried to get to the inside and they shoved their way through the corner. Leo Brown trying to defend from Voisin on the outside. It's getting helter-skelter down to Graham Hill.
Yeah, Leo Brown, of course, someone who races for Drive Lounge Racing in the British Formula 4 Esports Championship, partnered with Team Fenix. So obviously, effectively his teammate in this event would have been Remy Gilbert, who went out there in the consolation race. He's trying to find his way through on Matt Caruana, someone he's raced with time and time again in that British Formula 4 Esports Championship. Shoma Shintani as well, who's having his debut season in it. And Thomas Fleming, someone who he hasn't raced too much here on iRacing. He was holding at the front end of the field, doing brilliantly. Here comes Caruana looking to the outside, but backs out on Shintani. The
question is, at what point do they really start to go? I mean, Matt Caruana, 3 laps now in a row, he's tried to get to the inside through Druids. It's not quite worked out. Shintani's there for the race lead. Callum Voisin passes Leo Brown for 4th position. There is so much going on. Caruana gets the slingshot down through the Cooper Straight to the inside in through Surtees. He grabs 2nd away from Shintani.
Could Caruana be the one to find his way through? Callum Voisin, though, is knocking at the door of Shoma Shintani. We're still very early stages in this race. The thing is, I don't suspect, unless there's a crash, we're not going to get a breakaway on speed. It is only going to come from an incident, which, to be fair, there's a lot of cars in this pack, and I can definitely see it coming. Let's see what the defensive line's coming in then from Thomas Fleming. Can Matt Caruana get back on the up and under as they depart Druids? No, he cannot. He looks back over and gets right onto the brakes just ahead of Shoma Shintani. Leo Brown to the outside getting hung out to dry as Ryan Mikulev and Emil Bernstorff also work their way through. Aaron Vasquez is knocking at the door now as well.
He's up 5 positions now since the start. Although Emil Bernstorff, defending race winner, has dropped down to 9th, so he's not lost much ground, but he's going to have to find his way back up. You can see plus and minus positions relative to the start on the left side of the screen. Luis Nunes, minus 17, is the only driver to be down anything more than 4 positions, really, except for Harem Song with that penalty on the initial race start. So watch here for Caruana. He's been doing this. It's his distinctive look. Up the inside in through Druids. And Fleming a little bit reactionary on the block that time by for me. It means Voisin's got a chance, but some contact with his right front to the left rear of Caruana. Shintani's got a chance to claw the position back down the hill. It's 2 rows of 2 deep they go. And I was saying there's so much to look at. Lewis, this train extends all the way back to 28th position right now.
Yeah, this whole, I say it all the time in the UK Formula 4 1600 Esports Championship along with British Formula 4 where you've got the rule of 6 cars and more than that and it becomes a little bit too chaotic. But we're way above 6 at the moment as here comes Matt Caruana once again looking. He definitely sent a message to Thomas Fleming being like, look, if you're going to keep cutting over like that, this is going to end in tears. I'm sure he's going to go for a big up and under here. Whether he's going to have the speed to do so, not quite enough, not quite close enough there on Fleming, who continues to lead.
Well, what I was going to say the previous lap was Caruana had been going into the entry of Druids quite wide and cutting in very late and aggressive. But that time he had got such a good run that he was already going to the inside early. We'll see what happens now. A bit of breathing room to Callum Voisin. No action into Druids that time by. As behind Shintani Mikolev's up 2 positions now as Leo Brown and Emil Bernstorff recover to 6th and 7th respectively. We're already a quarter of the way through this race, not quite at the halfway point, but wow, it has been thick and fast, the action. And Lewis, you had called out Aaron Vasquez, highest I-rated driver in the field, and now going to make his move on Bernstorff. Out to the gravel, easy pass for the Spaniard.
Yeah, went for a couple of wibble wobbles there on the... whoa, there we go, and there's Emil Bernstorff round! Rodriguez got to the inside, Bernstorff's been sent round, and we will definitely not see a back-to-back champion here in the iRacing Formula 4 Festival. Wilson, that's promoted the likes of Philip McLaren's up to, I think he's gained half the field now. He's close to the 16th spot, I think, for him.
So I think that was JD Rodriguez that did a flip, unfortunately, and has taken a tow back to pit lane. But that's our first big incident of the feature, and it's a separation now between the top 7 and those on back. Rule of 6 still applies here, Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll see. See how right I am. And normally I am, but no, I'm joking. Caruana, like I say, keeping very close to that race lead. Things are starting to separate. This is what happened with Smith behind all that. So we saw Rodriguez go through. Oh, do you know what? I thought that was playing at normal speed then. I was like, that's a very weird crash.
Stopped the car in midair as well, apparently.
Yeah, right.
McLaren's up to 11th spot now. 16 positions gained as Wang Jilin loses out a little bit. John Babineau's got a meatball. That incident really, I think, just the eruption of the volcano of tension that's been building throughout the afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are around the world. Obviously, this event a little bit more focused on British motorsports, but boy, does it attract a global crowd. Matt Caruana, long way around and trying to pinch Thomas Fleming now as Voisin gets the move attempted on Shintani. It is starting to get a little bit more aggressive, is the word I'm feeling.
6 cars separated by 1 second. 7 cars really separated by 1 second. Certainly is now as we run on the back stretch past the pit lane on the right-hand side. You can see out the back of the pit lane down towards the assembly area. These 7 cars are all battling for the Formula 4, the 3rd Formula 4 Festival title here. It is Fleming still leading. Caruana, though, is getting a bit more aggressive. The problem is, if he tries to go around the Aston Druids, there is that chance where he might get passed by a Shintani or a Voisin.
And you can see in the M&M's machine, Voisin trying. He's there alongside of Matt Caruana on the climb up the hill. And this is where he gets vulnerable to the attempted move from Shintani if he's not aggressive enough, but still alongside of that orange machine. Caruana's been nestled in second for so long, unable to find his way forward. And so Callum Voisin, it's now your turn. It will be halfway by next time at the line. 10 laps left to figure it out. And Voisin, who started down in 6th, risen his way to 2nd, has got just one more move to find his way forward.
Indeed, knocking at the door to try and find his way through on Thomas Fleming. He's, like I say, he's worked his way through, and that's not just been through like one instant he's picked up all the spots. He's been going through them methodically, picking them off bit by bit and doing it as cleanly as he can. And now he finds himself at the chance to maybe find his way through. There out wide goes Ryan McAuliffe, who's going to drop down into 7th position. Aaron Vasquez and Leo Brown both through, and a gap of nearly a second from Brown back to McAuliffe.
And so, still 6, I guess, technically. And there's another 3 still in a train, not far behind. So Zamaloa, Ras, Javier Sanchez is in the mix too. Top 10 could still be a train. In what is, I believe, an open setup event, Lewis, although there's not much to really tweak on these cars.
Very little. There is, in fact, there's almost nothing that you can do. And when speaking to some drivers, is it fixed or open? It doesn't really matter, does it? There are certain things, but it's more, honestly, if you speak to like a Henry Mortimer, yes, there are, who's one of the best drivers in this car, same like Crofton Woodard, yes, there's some things you can change, but it is more just about the nuances of how to drive it, because it does like to slide. You have to slide it in the right way.
You don't want to overheat the tires or anything like that. Now, tomorrow, we'll see the return of the IMSA Esports Global Championship on these iRacing channels. That's where setup will make a lot more of a difference with all the different things, and like we were talking about with access to some electronic wizardry. At Caruana, trying to plug the hole that Callum Voisin had left for a moment. This could help Thomas Fleming this time by into Druids, as fully alongside as we get an intimate look at the front end of a Formula 4. Can the M&M's machine sweep once more, down around the outside, out through the opening corner. Fleming aggressively covering the inside, as has become the norm. Voisin has enough momentum to challenge.
He has a lot of speed. He almost has another. Yeah, he's going to look here, going to try and get the move done at Graham Hill. And Fleming goes off! Off he goes! There was contact between Voisin and Fleming. Goodness me.
And then on the rejoin, back in 14th spot. So Voisin involved in a couple of moments down at Graham Hill Bend. And until that point, Thomas Fleming Lewis had led every single lap of this year's event.
But this thing, I think that might be the catalyst to really set off this battle for the race lead. Aggressive down the inside, we'll see it once again. So it's Callum Voisin on the inside. He is fully alongside there. I don't know what caused Fleming's car to go that far off. Normally you get a little bit of contact and you get maybe pushed out wide. I don't know what caused it. Like the wheel almost like got ripped out of his hands, it seemed.
A little bit of air between them, to say the least, as well, I felt. Aaron Vasquez has a real sniff of things. Up 10 spots. Dylan McClements is plus 17. Andrew Jaden Sherwood, they're 10th and 11th. Really out of the mix at the front of the field. Black flag for Van Vielen. 6 laps to go at the line.
We've got really, 5 cars here for the lead. Ryan McAuliffe is closing in. Zamaloa also will be closing in on this fight. So, and he's obviously dragging in Mario Ras in the Mario car. Sanchez, McClement's a little bit too far off the rear end of this. There comes a look to the inside. It's Caruana really trying to fend off Aaron Vasquez, who's looking to the outside. Is he going to go full send here at Druids? It was the full send, the absolute speed coming off of Paddock Hill Bend, which is what basically caused the move there for Callum Voisin a couple of laps ago. And now he's trying to fend off from Caruana. It's getting very feisty in this battle with very little time left to go.
And attrition is starting to play its part. You can see at the top of your screen the notice of penalties, beat balls, all sorts of things involving even strong contenders like Anne Medema. Leo Brown makes his move on Shomi Shintani through that long final corner. Shintani now vulnerable to Mikulev as well. Once more, Callum Voisin going to go up high. And that, I'm not quite sure why, but is a very calculated move on the part of the 43 Lewis. He did not want to be out front, I think, for whatever reason. Now going to drop down potentially as low as 3rd, if not 4th.
Yeah, this is going to go very badly for Callum Voisin. Maybe he didn't quite anticipate the speed of Matt Caruana there, who's come through to take over the race lead. Aaron Vasquez, highest I-rated driver on the field, is now knocking at the door. They do have some lap traffic to deal with as well in the form of Vilkaitis, who is the one directly ahead. You can see him just there going through the final corner. 4 laps left to go. Not long left at all. Can Vasquez find his way through?
I mean, he's made 11 moves so far. Just looking for one more. That traffic in front will hopefully recognize the oncoming herd and storm that's about to descend. And Caruana not making that chop to the inside. He chopped quite late, and Vasquez recognizes it. Avoids making the situation any worse. On board slightly further back in the train, which now officially is 9 cars strong once again.
Yeah, this is going to get risky, especially by the time they get up to the lap traffic. And so Vilkaitis is going to have to be very aware of this train that will be fighting their way through now. Obviously, we've got 3 laps to go. Out wide goes Caruana. Aaron Vasquez is going to come through to the inside. And as we begin the ante-penultimate lap, which I'm wisely informed by Piers Pryor is the one before the penultimate lap, why there's a word for that I don't know, Aaron Vasquez is going for the race lead.
My goodness, English is such a beautiful language. Callum Voisin is there, but in the fight for second, really, Vasquez has got enough of a gap to carry his momentum around the outside and just sweep his way through. Caruana might even be down to 4th if he can't hold off Leo Brown. 4 tucks back into line. Oh, very wide from Caruana. Back onto track, but with some momentum robbed. Leo Brown on the outside now, shoves him down. There's a car in the grass that's going to stay out of the way, but Lewis, 2 laps left to go. Penultimate lap of the racing coming. Is it down to the top 2 at the front of the field?
seems like it, but the more they fight, the more it's going to drag Brown, Caruana, Shintani, Micallef and all that lot back into it. So, and they are going to fight. Of course they're going to fight. Here comes a look to the outside from Callum Voisin to try and steal away race victory from Aaron Vasquez. It's the 1 versus the 43, and it was an outside move which allowed Callum Voisin to take over the race lead earlier on. Can he do it again? Not on the penultimate lap.
Formula Ford Festival didn't start at Brands Hatch, but boy, has this track really developed into a great home, some great history, and we are in year 3 of this event, and we are on it, it seems, for a 3rd different winner in as many years. It comes down to one final lap, one final challenge from Callum Voisin, trying to steal the race win away from Aaron Vasquez, who has clawed his way up from 13th on the grid. There will be traffic in front of them as the white flag waves at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, one of these drivers is going to be joining Jason Smith and Emil Bernstorff as winners of this championship. Straight around outside, some big crashes further down the order. Callum Voisin, who's been off the road, and Aaron Vasquez is holding on to the race lead with Brown, Caruana and Shintani coming through on Voisin.
And Brown might be more locked into his fight with Caruana at this point. Is this the chance for Vasquez to scamper away? Brown has cleared himself of Caruana. Just 2 more corners left, the left and then the right. Caruana with a big send. He'll slam the door shut on Leo Brown, but it's all in the fight for second. Aaron Vasquez, never really a contender until the end. 13 spots gained in the race, and the #1 I-rated driver in the field becomes the winner of the 2025 BRSCC iRacing Formula Ford Festival.
Brilliant event, brilliant racing, and very, very exciting indeed. And Aaron Vasquez, a worthy winner of this event to be added to that list, picked his way through beautifully in all of that. Again, there's going to be a lot of drivers in that group who will be very disappointed. There'll be drivers further down that will be disappointed. Jaden Sherwood's, Dylan McClement, who definitely have the pace to win this event, but they didn't have the luck going through the heats, or it wasn't looking favourably upon them. But Aaron Vasquez has just played his cards calmly and perfectly throughout this event. And yeah, very worthy winner.
He's played his calm cards. I like
Calm
that
cards,
as well.
yeah, that's all right.
Well, we've got more coverage on RaceSpot TV to come, so we're not going to dawdle too much in our post-race coverage here. If you're not already following us on YouTube, do go and hit that subscribe button. We've got some endurance racing action later today. We'll grab a quick look at our race results as Vasquez celebrates 3/10 the winning margin as Caruana and Brown locked into the fight amongst the two of them. Shoma Shintani, winner of Heat 2, down to 4th. While Callum Voisin drops to 5th on the final lap. Ryan Micallef in 6th, Zamaloa 7th, with Ras, Sanchez and McClements fighting his way back up to 10th. What an impressive performance from him. While Luis Nunez in front of Ricardo Martinez. Thomas Fleming, he will be very frustrated, to say the very least, down in 13th, with Jaden Sherwood, Tobias Roner, Harim Song, Rui Pinto, Yentel Van Thielen, Fraser Smith and Wanji Lin, your top 20. Carlos Vilkatis, Emil Bernstorff, defending race winner, 1 lap down. John Babineau, Andrew Petty, Timothy Russell, Garen Batten, Casper Anderson, Anne Medema, Hans Mola, and JD Rodriguez, the field of 30 that made it to the main event. Well, 3 years on a bounce, Lewis, that we've had a chance to sit here and call some great racing action. And I don't know about you, I'm counting the days to next year, although hoping that we either push it back 1 week or bring it forward a couple of weeks so that we don't clash with the Walter Hayes Trophy in the real world next year.
Yeah, certainly so. Would be good to have, because then we'd get some of the drivers there. Lovely to see one of the highest I-rated drivers try and get 116 brake horsepower to brake traction and do some burnouts there on the start-finish straight, and ultimately failing. But still, it's a lot of fun. Like I say, move it around next year, and we'll get a quality grid out there. Probably just as much entertainment, though.
Maybe some more as well, with the egos that potentially will be brought into the mix. Let's not forget a couple more special events this year. A couple of weeks away from the Suzuka 1000. The week after that, November the 22nd, will be the SCCA runoffs with the USF 2000 GT4 machine, Spec Racer Fords, and a whole bunch of other things. But time for us to wrap up coverage for our producer Ramiro, alongside of Lewis McLeod and myself, Arjuna Kankipati. Thanks so much for your company. It's been a blast returning to Brands Hatch and seeing our third different winner in 3 years. Aaron Vasquez does it from 13th on the grid. Your winner of the BRSCC iRacing Formula Ford 1600 Festival for 2025.